Yeah, folks, I've had a yeah. I guess it's kind of a rough couple of days. My Macarena friend from India, Sadia, who was really nice, playing very patiently with my 5-year-old daughter, just a really sweet person and a really good player on Macarena. We got word she's been hit by a truck and the guy's bad driving or something. They put him in jail. That's what her brother said. But she's in a coma, and I have to admit I'm I've been kind of grieving. So I haven't really been on, really been streaming, and but part of what the Mystic Happiness classes are about is like resilience, and the other part is like teaching old dogs new tricks I've never gamed before, and I'm trying to get better at gaming. Um, so I have to practice. Yeah. Oh, I've maintained the bracket of novice. Awesome. Yeah. Anyway, sound effects up to the max. Let's see if this is gonna work. I gotta get right in there, man. Time's a wasting. Is my desktop audio coming across? I'd like to know that my audio is audible. I think the music is way too loud. Alright. Let's see if we can do this thing. Hey, Mike. Yeah, like I was saying, my Macarena friend Sadia, she got hit by a truck. She's in the hospital. Kind of bummed out. Really played some great games with her. And she also was really patient. She would play with my daughter. My daughter, she's not very skilled player. What is wrong with this thing? Right. There we go. That's what I like. Accurate, effective. What's been going on with you, Mike? Feeling good? Oh, it's the grammar pose. Dang it. Shoot, didn't get the vampire points either. Blow that one off. Stay right here. I sort of like this level. Give me a little pump. Dun, 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 dun. Bad take, Hatter. Yeah, so I've kind of been offline for a couple of days. Let's just go and step out. Down. Yeah. Man, I'm halfway through this. Nobody's coming over here. Guess I'm blazing. No, you just stay right there. Let's go. Go ahead. I was watching the Valorant tournament the other day. That was wild. There were 80,000 people watching, 90,000. Like high 80s, low 90,000s of people watching it. Can't believe that, man. See, I can't hit that guy. 31 seconds. You're kidding me, right? Seconds, man. I can't even get a reload. That's it, man. I ain't got nothing. Defeated by bots. Oh, I made it on the board. What do you know?
Economic Writings 1, edited by Peter Ludis. The Complete Works of Rosa Luxemburg. The Complete Works of Rosa Luxemburg, Volume I, Economic Writings 1, edited by Peter Ludis, translated by David Fernbach, Joseph Rakia and George Schreiber. V. Verso, London, New York. Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung. Verso would like to express its gratitude to Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung for help in publishing this book. Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung, the publisher, also gratefully acknowledges the assistance of Dietz Verlag for allowing the publication of translations of the Industrial Development in Poland. Introduction to Political Economy and Back to Adam Smith, based on Rosa Luxemburg's G-sampled work, as well as gratitude, alongside M. Kretkin, for providing transcripts of the 7 manuscripts from the SPD Party School. Paperback edition, first published by Verso 2014, first published by Verso 2013, copyright Verso 2013, 2014 English translation of chapters 1 and 4 through 10 and appendix, copyright George Schreiber 2013, 2014 English translation copyright Joseph Rakia 2013, 2014 English translation of chapter 3, copyright David Fernbach 2013, 2014 introduction, copyright Peter Ludis 2013, 2014 The moral rights of the authors have been asserted. 13579108642. Verso, UK.
What's that horrible stuff? That go.
London,
Dang it.
US, 20J Street, Suite 1010. Verso, New York, 11201. www.versobooks.com. Verso is the imprint of New Red Books, ISBN 13-978-168-768-9, the ISBN 13-978-168-331-6, UK, the ISBN 978-1-84,467-975, -1, US. British
Many
Library cataloging and publication data.
Oh,
A
stupid.
catalog for this book is available
fart
from British
knocker.
Library, publication data. A catalog for this book is available from Library J and N. Gavin, Truro, Cornwall, printed by in the U.S. by Maple Press.
That was cool.
Contents. Introduction by Peter Ludis. By 1. The Industrial Development of 79. 3. 4. Slavery. 301. 5. Notes about the economic form of antiquity slavery. 331. 6. The Middle Ages. Feudalism. Development of cities. 339. 7. Practical economics. 8. Marx's Capital. 485. 10. History of Political Economy. 503. Theory of the Latest Fund. 509. Notes. 583. Introduction. The Luxembourg 1. The depth and breadth of Rosa Luxemburg as theoretician, activist, and
There we
original
go.
personality was once expressed by her in the following terms. In a word, as Wladys Lottheim would say, to say something great. I feel that within me there is maturing a completely new and original form which dispenses with the usual formulas and patterns and breaks them down. I feel with utter certainty that something is there, that something will be born. This quest for what she called a land of boundless possibilities can be regarded as one of her most distinguishing characteristics. This is most of all evident from Luxemburg's intellectual and political commitments. By the time of her death in 1919, she was renowned as one of most fiercely independent figures in European radicalism. Refusing to define herself in the terms often adopted by her contemporaries, she issued a searing critique of the inhumanity of capitalism while being no less critical of what she viewed as misguided efforts by radicals to supplant it. Her understanding that capital isn't only the overcome through a thoroughly participatory and democratic process that actively involves the majority of the percent with a departure from the hierarchical models of electoral politics and revolutionary pacifism that define so many efforts at social change in the 20th century, just as it anticipates the aspirations of many feminists, ecologists, and Occupy activists struggling in the 21st century to avoid the errors of the past. Luxemburg's quest for a land of boundless possibilities becomes frustrating to anyone who encounters her numerous political pamphlets, and other philosophical institutions such as reform or revolution, the mass strike, the political party, and the trade union or the Russian Revolution, or the many lesser-known words that have never been translated in English but which will all appear in the complete Georgia Chase, 8 19, 1899.
That was stupid.
In Rosa Luxemburg, G. Samuel Fried, Van 1, Berlin, Dietz Verlag, 1989, pages 307. Wladys Lottheim was a fellow Pole who studied with Rosa Luxemburg at the University of Zurich during the Revolution, the industrial development of Poland. For an especially valuable work that sheds important illumination on Luxemburg's contribution to its conception, see In the Steps of Rosa Luxemburg, edited and introduced by David Fernbach, Leiden and Boston, Brill, 2011. J. One of the difficulties in obtaining access to Luxemburg's entire legacy is that her manuscripts are not found in one place and libraries, such as that. 8. Introduction, her voluminous correspondence, which illuminates her original personality and remarkable span of interests literary, scientific, and political all grounded in an effort to stay true to her views. What may not have received sufficient attention in some quarters is that Luxemburg's effort to say something great is most powerfully exhibited in her four major books: The Industrial Development of Poland, Introduction to Political Economy, An Accumulation of Capital, and The Accumulation of Capital, or what the epigones have made of Marxist theory, and anti-critique to each is a Marxist analysis. Taken as a whole, they represent the most comprehensive study of capitalism's inherent tendency towards global expansion ever written. Living as we are, the logic of capital has now expanded to cover the entire world. The time has surely come to revisit these writings by one of the most important women economists of the 20th century. This effort has been hindered, however, by articles, essays, and letters, has yet to appear in English. This is also true of her economic writings, since the Anglo World has lacked a complete translation of one of her most important books, The Introduction to Political Economy. The introduction into material economy critiques of such theorists as Karl Butcher, Werner Sombart and Klaus Butler. Analyses of pre-capitalist societies, such as those in sub-Saharan Africa and pre-Columbian America. And a detailed discussion of the role of contemporary capitalism. The introduction was composed as part of her work as a teacher, a dimension of her work that is little known in the English-speaking world. From 1907 to 1914 she taught history, economics, and social theory at the German Social Democratic Party School in Berlin. She devoted considerable time and energy to her teaching and wrote the Introduction to Political Economy as a result of her discussions with students at the party school. As part of this work, she composed a number of manuscripts and lecture notes. 7 in all survive, which have only recently come to light. Only part of one of these 7 manuscripts has Bonn Archives of the Social Democratic Party, the SANDF Federal Archives in Berlin, the Polish State Archives in Warsaw, the International Institute of Social History in Amsterdam, the Russian State Archive for Social and Political History in Moscow, and the River Institution at Stanford University in California. See especially works, The Letters of Rosa Luxemburg, edited by Georg Adler, Peter Ludis, and Annelies Laschitza, London and New York, with the book, 2011. See other impressive number of works on Luxemburg have appeared in the English-speaking world in the past decade. Most have focused on her political writings without emphasizing her work as an economic theorist. An important exception is Rosa Luxemburg and a Critique of Political Economy, edited by Riccardo Belofiore, London and New York, Routledge, 2009. See also Socialist Studies Volume 6, Number 2, 2010, for its special issue on Luxembourg. Introduction 9, previously appeared in English. All are published in full in this volume. They indicate how intently Luxembourg kept up with the latest literature on economic history, sociology, anthropology, and serve as an important supplement to the Introduction to Political Economy and Accumulation of Capital. Together with a number of the pre-1914 economic writings, Industrial Development of Poland, a manuscript of 1897 on the theory of the wages fund, and an essay from 1899 on Marxian value theory, this volume provides a fuller picture of Luxemburg's contribution as an economic theorist than has heretofore been available. A second volume of her economic writings will contain a new English translation of Capital and Anti-Critique, as well as a chapter on volumes 2 and 3 of Marx's Capital that she originally wrote for Franz Marion's biography of Karl Marx. The complete works will be rounded out with 7 volumes of political writings and 5 volumes of Luxemburg's cannot be fully appreciated without taking account of her as a political figure and an inspiring personality. Her overall contribution cannot be grasped without engaging with her work as an economic theorist. It is for this reason that we have decided to works with her economic writings. Surely, separating her other into economic and political categories is somewhat artificial. As she indicates in the correspondence, her initial approach to economic theory was largely stimulated by her political imperialism into Asia and Africa. She wrote, around 1895, a basic change occurred. The Japanese War opened Chinese politics, driven by capitalist state interests, intruded into Asia. It is clear that the dismembering of Asia and Africa is the final limit beyond which European politics no longer has room to unfold. T. Luxemburg's effort to comprehend the phenomena of imperialism and how it points to the dissolution or the final crisis of capitalism determine much of the content of her economic work. Meanwhile, many of her political writings reform or revolutionary invariant analyses of the economic law of motion of capitalism and its proclivity for cyclical crises. Yet given the amount of time, care, and attention that Luxemburg gave to developing her major economic works, it makes sense to begin the complete work with the writings that contain their most detailed and analytically specific delineation of Marxian economics. It is your word of brilliance, originality, and independence of intellect as well as some of her misjudgments and limitations are most readily visible. A section of the manuscript on slavery in the ancient world was published in the Rosa Luxemburg Reader, edited by Peter Ludis and Kevin B. Anderson, New York, Monthly Review Books, 2004, pages 1 LL22. T. Talir Jojiches, January 9, 1899, in G. Samuel 3, Dan 1, pages 249 to 50. X. Introduction 2. Not long after being forced to flee Poland as a teenager, where she became active in the nascent Polish Marxist movement, Luxemburg moved to Switzerland and enrolled in the University of Zurich. By May 1997, she had earned a PhD in economics, one of the first women in Europe to obtain one. Her dissertation, The Industrial Development of Poland, was the first detailed analysis of development of capitalism in Poland. Research at the Bibliothèque Nationale and Czartoryski Library in Paris. It was a rigorous, empirical study that immediately defined her as a serious theoretician. Unusual for the time, it was published as a book by a major German publisher soon after its completion and was widely and warmly reviewed by both radical émigrés and academic economists. That the industrial development of Poland earned Luxemburg a degree and did not explicitly reveal the extent of her commitment to revolutionary politics, which was mentioned only once in it, should not be taken to mean she had begun her academic career. Instead, the dissertation was central to her effort to come to grips with how the Marxist analysis speaks to her particular homeland. Although Luxemburg did not attain a major international reputation until the revisionist debate on German social democracy in 1898-99, her dissertation already established her as an important Marxist thinker. Her dissertation is found throughout her subsequent work, Internationalism. She analyzed the economy of Russian-occupied Poland as a part of an increasingly globalized capitalist system by detailing how its industrial development was dependent on goods and skills imported opened up through Russia's penetration of Asia. Poland's economy, she insisted, was increasingly dependent on global capital. Any independent path of national development was foreclosed by economic reality. She wrote, "It is an exact law of the capitalist method of production that it strives to materially bind together the most distant places, on each other, and eventually transform the entire world into one firmly joined productive mechanism, team, for the circumstances under which Luxemburg revised her dissertation for publication as a book. See the letters of Rosa Luxemburg, pages 49, 63. 87-8. Those who praise the work included her dissertation director, Julius Bose, an important economist in his own right who did not take objections to the Marxian doctrine get in the way of appreciating his inquisitive and combative student. Bolt's critique of Marxism, see his Sozialismus und Kompetenzgeschichte. Socialism and capitalist social organization. An assessment of both as a critical foundation for social policy. Stuttgart, J.G. Kalla, 1892. Luxemburg's view of what is contained, in part, in the manuscript theory of the wages fund. Written while she attended the University of Zurich, in 1897. To the Industrial Development of Poland, pages 73, below. Introduction sign. This became the basis author to address the question that most bedeviled the Polish Marxist movement from its inception: what position to take on demands for national self-determination. Should the struggle for socialism be inextricably connected to demands for national independence? Or does the former make the latter superfluous? In direct contrast to Marx and Engels, who consistently supported the Polish independence struggles, Luxemburg opposed all calls for national self-determination for Poland. The industrial development of Poland represents the economic justification for this political position by arguing that Poland's economy had become so integral to Russia's that any and all calls for national independence had become thoroughly utopian and impractical. Many of debates addressed in the industrial development of Poland were resolved long ago, and not always to Luxemburg's credit. Her contention that the deepening economic links between Finland and Russia signifies the beginning of their Finnish independence in political terms has hardly stood the test of time. Finland achieved national independence from Russia in December 1917, just as Poland itself did only a few months later. Despite the considerable problems that plagued the Polish economy between the two world wars, her claim that demands for its national independence had become totally impractical have clearly been undermined by the actual historical developments. At the same time, her dissertation's keen appreciation of the impact of the global economy on efforts to foster capitalistic industrialization means it is not as dated or distant as may appear at first sight. Efforts at industrial modernization that try to seal off the country from the deleterious impact of the world market, she suggests, are inherently counterproductive, since capital accumulation is dependent on a web of influences that extend beyond national borders. Her work counters the claim that development can best be secured by relying solely on a nation's internal resources, a point that many socialists have blatantly begun to discover in recent decades, in light of the painful failures that have accompanied many efforts to pursue a nationalist development strategy in the developing world. After completing her dissertation, Luxemburg moved to Germany and became a leading figure in the German Social Democratic Party and Second International. Her reputation secured by her intervention in the revisionism controversy of 1898-99, she became a much sought-after public speaker, journalist, political campaigner, and agitator. By 1905-6, when she returned to Poland to participate in the Russian Revolution and penned her famous pamphlet on the mass strike, the political parties, and the trade unions, she had become known for a recent discussion of Marx's writings on Poland. See Kevin B. Anderson, Marx at the Margins, on Nationality, Ethnicity, and Non-Western Societies, Chicago, University of Chicago Press, 2010, pages 42-79. To the Industrial Development of Poland, pages 64, below. XII Introduction, as an uncompromising opponent of bureaucracy and political elitism and a firm defender of rank-and-file initiatives and mass spontaneity. Although some of Luxemburg's biographers have tended to view her work of 1907-14 as less significant than that from 1898 to 1907. The years between the mass strike pamphlet and the outbreak of World War I actually marked the period in which she produced her most important theoretical work. Much of it was connected to her work as a teacher at the SPD school in Berlin. Founded in 1906 in response to growing interest in radical ideas following the 1905 revolution, its aim was to educate party cadres and trade unionists in Marxist theory, history, and sociology. Luxemburg began teaching at the school in October 1907. Despite lacking any formal experience as a teacher, she plunged into the work with enthusiasm and soon became one of the most popular instructors. Her teaching load was intensive. She lectured 5 days a week for 2 hours a day and spent additional time advising and assisting students. She was the only woman on the teaching staff. Luxemburg's massive theoretical output from 1907 to 1914, much of it devoted to economic theory, was directly impacted by her experience as a teacher. As J.P. Netter put it, undoubtedly the constant polishing of ideas before her students helped Rosa greatly to clarify her own mind on the basic propositions of her political faith. Luxemburg was in fact deeply invested in critical pedagogy. It reflected her lifelong commitment to intellectual and cultural advancement as at the heart of the struggle for a new society. She defined her teaching philosophy thusly: we have tried to make clear to them that they must continue to go on learning, that they will go on learning all their lives. What the masses need is general education, theory which gives them the chance of making a system out of the detail acquired from experience and which helps to forge a deadly weapon against our enemies. Section. This was part and parcel of her view in the mass strike pamphlet that the most precious, because lasting, thing in this rapid ebb and flow the wave of J.P. Neck referred to the period from 1906 1909 as lost years. See Chapter 9 of Rosa Luxemburg, London, Oxford University Press, 1966. For a different assessment of this period, see Romia Danilevskaya, Rosa Luxemburg, Women's Liberation, and Marx's Philosophy of Revolution, New Jersey, Humanities Press, 1981, pages 1-30. And Anneliese Laschet, in Lebensfrucht, Fox Allen and Rosa Luxemburg, Berlin, Aufbau Roulette, 1996, pages 215-429. T. Heinrich Schultz, the SPD's educational expert, explained the impetus for starting the school. The Russian Revolution released a flood of energy and mobility and the desire to discuss fundamental questions. The need for theoretical education increased accordingly. See Heinrich Schultz. Flyjar Arbeiterbuilding. Die New Zeit, Bantu, number 50, September 1st 1908, pages 883. J. Net. Rosa Luxemburg, pages 392. Section quoted in Edit, pages 394. Introduction XIII. Class struggle is its mental phenomenon, the intellectual, cultural growth of the proletariat. Along similar lines, she argued that the ability of bourgeoisie to throw off the fetters of absolutism, which was so important for the unfolding of capitalism as a global system, could not have occurred without such intellectual revolutions of the Enlightenment that preceded it. P. Political economy, along with the philosophical, social, and natural rights theories of the Age of Enlightenment, was above all a means for acquiring self-consciousness, a formulation of the class consciousness of the bourgeoisie, and as such a precognition of impulse for the revolutionary. Acti, ideas, Schials, are not merely epiphenomena, which is one reason why this painstaking Marxian materialist had no problem identifying herself as an idealist. On the basis of her lectures and discussions at the party school, she decided to work on a full-length book, eventually called Introduction to Political Economy. Several of her fellow teachers first suggested the idea of such a book so that her lectures could obtain a wider audience. She began doing research for the book at the end of 1907, and by the summer of 1908 was already looking forward to preparing a manuscript for the printer. Sections of this period of 1907 August, the content of her time book closely corresponded to the subjects of her lectures, which were listed as follows: 1. What is economics? 2. Social labor. 3. Exchange. 4. Wage labor. 5. The rule of capital. 6. Contradictions in the capitalist economy. As she proceeded to work on the book, she decided to include additional material on pre-capitalist societies that was not part of her initial lectures at the party school. This took her into intense studies of elitist literature on ancient, medieval, and early modern societies. In the summer of 1909 she began preparing a manuscript for publication. In 1910 she completed an initial draft, containing 8 chapters. She intended to first publish the work as 8 separate brochures or pamphlets and later as a complete book. The mass strike, the political party, and the trade unions, in the Luxemburg Review, pages 185. T. Introduction to Political Economy, pages 140, below J.C. The Letters of Rosa Luxemburg, pages 118. As for the statement that it is ridiculous to be an idealist in the German movement, I don't agree with that. Because the suprema ratio supreme principle with which I have succeeded in all my Polish-German revolutionary practical work is this: always to be myself, without any regard to the surroundings or other people. Indeed, I am an idealist and will remain one, as much in the German movement as in the Polish. Letter to Jojicz of May 1st, 1899. Section C. Her letter to Wilhelm Pieck of August 1, 1908, in G. Semmelweis Brief, Bantu, pages 365. This represents one relatively early version of the subjects that she lectured on at the party school. Unfortunately, we have no records of the content of most of her courses from 1907 to 1914. The plan table of contents as of 1910 reads as follows: 1. What is political economy? Example introduction, in the course of looking on last Brochure chapter in November 1st 911 dealing with the trajectory of capitalism as a whole, Luxemburg encountered what she called the puzzling aspect of a larger subject, namely, what are the barriers that prevent the continued expansion of capitalism? She distinguishes the capitalist mode of production from all its predecessors is that it has the inherent impetus to extend automatically across the whole of the system and drive out all other earlier social orders. This drive for global expansion, Schial, is the economic basis of colonialism and imperialism. On these grounds, she repeatedly attacked the leading economists of the time, such as Karl Butcher and Wilhelm Roscher, for presuming that capitalism is understood in the national system. Indeed, this study of political economy was termed national economy by the German economists of the time, a fact that early Luxemburg's form, however, was established related to capitalist expansion. She She wrote, yet the more countries develop a capitalist industry of their own, the greater is the need and possibility of expansion production, while the primary mention depicted the possibility of expansion due to market barriers. Incessantly, with each step of its own further development, capitalist production is approaching the time when its expansion and development will be increasingly slow and difficulty. As Luxemburg pondered this issue, she became convinced in his forming with expanded reproduction at the which is a close copy Thomas society without foreign trade. Luxemburg viewed this as a very serious error, since she took it to imply the possibility of infinite capitalist expansion, something that, would reduce the efforts of the capitalist society to be a subjective, utopian wish instead of an objective, physical necessity. Luxemburg realized that the issue of expanded reproduction was too complex and completely dealt with the inclusion of reproduction in political economy. She therefore decided to devote an entire work to the problem. As a result, in January 1912 she broke off work on the introduction in order to begin writing the published in 1913, it aimed to show that the imperialist destruction of non-capitalist strata is driven by the inability of workers and capitalists to consume or realize the bulk of the surplus value produced through capitalist production. The imposition of cost-bonus relations on non-capitalist strata, she argued, is both crucial for further 2. Social labor. 3. Material on economic history, primitive communism. Economy, guild commerce. 4. Exchange. 5. Wage labor. 6. The role of capital, rate of profit. 7. Prices. 8. Tendencies of the capitalist economy. Introduction to political economy, pages 396, below. Tieric, pages 300, below. Introduction XB, capital accumulation and establishes the historical limits to such expanded reproduction. Neither the problem of expanded reproduction nor her differences with Marx appear in the Introduction to Political Economy. Indeed, they are not dealt with in her lectures on volumes 2 and 3 of Capital that she gave as part of her work at the SPD School, and which appear here in English for the first time. These issues are reserved for the far more detailed and technical discussion in the accumulation of capital. But that does not mean Luxemburg gave up on the Introduction to Political Economy. She resumed work on it in 1916, when she was imprisoned in the Wrong Fortress for her opposition to World War I, and she continued to work on the manuscript until her release from prison in late 1918. Her 1916 outline of the introduction included 10 chapters, reflecting her much expanded treatment of per-capitalist societies. She appears to have completed much of the manuscript by then and was already envisioning plans for its publication. However, at the time of her death only 5 chapters, that is, chapters 1, 3, 6, 7, and the beginning of chapter 10, were found among her papers. It is likely that some of the material was destroyed or lost by the proto-fascist Freikorps ransacked her apartment shortly after her assassination in January 1919. This volume includes the text of the Introduction to Political Economy published after her death by Paul Levi, Luxemburg's colleague and follower, in 1925. The text has to be read with caution, since the version available to us is missing a number of important chapters such as those on the theory of value, capital and profit, and on the history of crisis, and Luxemburg did not get to edit what we do have for final publication. We have every reason to believe, however, that she did include the missing chapters on value, capital and profit, and crises. The importance she gave to the study of value, for instance, is evident from in an essay from 1899 that is included here, entitled Back to Adam Smith. It states, but the fundamental difference between Ricardo's and Marx's labor theory of value difference not only misunderstood by bourgeois economics, but also mostly misjudged in the popularization of Marx's doctrine is that Ricardo, corresponding to his universal, natural rights conception of bourgeois economy, also, from table of contents as 1916 read as follows: 1. What is economics? 2. Social labor. 3. Economic historical perspectives, primitive communist society. 4. Economic historical perspectives, feudal economic system. 5. Economic historical perspectives, the medieval
10 second reload.
commodity production. 7. Wage labor. 8. The profit of capital. 9. The conflict. 10. Dependence on capitalist development. This is December 15, 1916, in G. Samuel Clerk, Band 6, pages 130, and also page 200 of the first 3 chapters, Law of separate brochures or pamphlets, with the complete book published afterwards. XVI Introduction, how the creation law founded to be a natural attribute of human labor, of the individual, concrete labor in regular. On the other hand, recognize value as an abstraction made by the society under particular conditions, and arrive thereby at the differentiation of the two kinds of facing labor, individual labor and undifferentiated social labor. Differentiation promotes the solutions of the money riddle brings to the eye as though illuminated by the glow of a bullseye lantern. Closely connected to the content of the Introduction to Political Economy is the series of manuscripts and lecture notes that were worked at the Party School. 3 of the manuscripts notes on slavery, the history of economic crises, and the history of political economy were developed part of her research for the Introduction to. In addition, 4 transcripts of her lectures at the Party School have survived that are also connected with the Introduction, beginning with volumes 2 and 3 of Marx's Capital, Slavery in Ancient Greece and Rome, and the Middle Ages. These lectures appear to have been transcribed by Rosie Wolfstein, a student of Luxemburg's at the Party School and an important activist in the German socialist movement. Section all appear in this volume in full, for the first time in English. The manuscripts and lecture transcripts from the Party School are of great importance in illustrating the extent of Luxemburg's historical and empirical knowledge as well as the depth of her critical and analytical intellect. They show how much work she put into keeping up with the latest literature in political economy, anthropology, sociology, and ethnology, all while maintaining a secret. Pages 86, below. The precise date of composition for these 3 manuscripts is unknown, but they appear to have been composed between 1909 and 1913. T. Rosie Wolfstein made these 4 transcripts of Luxemburg's lectures in 1912-13. Section Luxemburg's biographer. Frolic had access to these manuscripts in typescripts in the 1920s and intended to publish them as part of Luxemburg's Luxemburg's denunciation by the international communist movement in mid-1920s, and the materials were largely forgotten until 6 of the 7 were rediscovered by Professor for Social and Political History in Moscow. The other 2 manuscripts, Luxemburg's on slavery and on history of political economy, at the SAMPF Federal Archives in Berlin. Simurilko Ida, First Verlauf and von Rosa Luxemburg Schriftlegerin. In part of her Historisch-Komische Forschung, Berlin, outside Verlag, 2002. I wish to thank Rosa for making copies of the original manuscripts available to us, and Professor Michael Creekby for providing us with electronic transcripts of the 7 manuscripts. I wish to thank Eric Seva for his assistance with some off-foot notes to the Introduction to Political Economy and manuscripts from the Party School of Australia. See Rosa Luxemburg, Unfolding Socialism, 2, Paris, Egon and Smolny, 2012. Luxemburg undoubtedly composed a number of manuscripts in preparation for her lectures and the Introduction to Political Economy that have not survived. For instance, there is no manuscript of her research on the Middle Ages, even though we have a lengthy transcript of her lecture on that subject at the Party School. Introduction XVI, heavy schedule offering for the socialist protests, and engaging in the internal debates and polemics of the Second International. Her fierce independence is manifest in many of these writings, such as the work on slavery in the ancient world. She took issue with Friedrich Engels, Marx's closest colleague and follower, claiming that slavery resulted from the creation of private property, arguing, this explanation cannot, strictly speaking, satisfy us. Since slavery arose earlier, as a direct result of the dissolution of the primitive agrarian commune. She based much of her research on the same figures that Marx studied in his investigation of non-Western societies and sociologist Maxim Kovalovsky. Moreover, she showed a pronounced interest in the positive contributions of communal social relations in the non-Western world, especially in countries hardly ever discussed by the European Marxists of her era. This volume also contains a manuscript on theory of the wages fund, which sharply attacks the classical theory that the wages of workers is determined by the ratio of the capital to the population of available workers, by contraposing that theory to Marx's theory of the surplus army of the unemployed. Luxembourg scholar and biographer Anneliese Laschitza has recently discovered that the manuscript was actually composed in 1897, while Luxembourg was at the University of Zurich. 3. What was Luxembourg's specific approach to the study of economic phenomena, especially as shown by Introduction to Political Economy and the manuscripts and typescripts that were part of her work at the Party School? It is evident to anyone reading the Introduction to Political Economy and the materials composed for her courses at the Party School that Luxembourg does not proceed along the lines of Volume 1 of Marx's Capital. Unlike Marx, she does not try to delineate the logic of commodity form and value production on. The popularity of Luxembourg's lectures was attested to by her secretary and friend Mathilde Jacob, even if some of the numerous listeners who came to the voices and rooms in München where Luxembourg's lectures were given on these Sunday mornings did not always agree with her conclusions. Everybody followed the masterly See Mathilde Jacob, Rosa Luxembourg, An Intimate Portrait, translated by Hans Verhoff with an introduction by David Bernbach, London, Lawrence and Wishart, 2000. Pages 25. Although Luxembourg was asked by Karl Kautsky to help prepare Marx's voluminous manuscripts and unpublished work for publication, she turned down the request. She of Marx's notebooks on Kovalovsky or the other materials composed by him at the end of his life on pre-capitalist societies. J. Laschitza's tireless research and compilation of Luxembourg's manuscripts, letters and papers, along with the work of Lerigo Ito, Holger Pollock, Felix Stein, and others, has proven of indispensable Luxembourg's multifaceted legacy.
Minerva.
XVIII Introduction,
Minerva.
a highly abstract level. She instead takes a historical approach by discussing commodity form and value production into being. However, this does not mean that Luxembourg was writing a straight narrative history. Her aim was not to write a history of capitalism so much as to discuss the central categories of Marx's capital through a historical approach. Michael F. Preston has captured the gist of Luxembourg's project in calling it a the logic of historical development of modes of production far beyond the topic of Marx's capital. The latter work is a study of capitalist production and capitalist production alone. It is not only concerned with showing how capitalism emerged from pre-capitalist no self-production. When does Luxembourg take a more historical approach, and what does this tell us about her theoretical contribution? It is first of all important to recognize what Luxembourg is not doing trying to popularize. After Marx's death in 1883, numerous popularizations of Marx's Capital appeared by such figures as Johann Most, Henry Hyndman, Friedrich Engels and Karl Marx. Many of these tried to spare readers reflection of specific historical phases, such as the transition from simple commodity exchange to generalized commodity production to, in some cases, students were even advised to skip chapter 1 altogether. Luxembourg was not alone in its efforts to simplify Marx's value production. There is no doubt that she devoted her lectures in the Introduction to Political Economy to those who will benefit from a farmer to market process. The issue she faced, however, was how to present the theoretic determinants of capital without falling prey to the superficial summary so common in the SPD. She sought to make Marx's ideas not accessible, not by rephrasing or alleviating them in a simplified or vulgarized fashion, but rather by elucidating their complexity by showing how they relate to both religions and the dissolution of capitalist society. In other words, Luxemburg does not bring in history as a way of providing examples of theoretical concepts. Instead, the complexity and importance of the concepts are elucidated by analyzing history in the light. The former approach maps the categories directly onto history. The latter enables students to obtain an understanding of the categories on their own terms through a study of history. Paul Follett, Luxemburg's colleague and biographer, expressed her approach thusly: the language is that of the people, but it is not that popularizing style. Michael Kretke, Rosa Luxemburg's Unverraffinite the politician. In Rosa Luxemburg als Politikerin, Unverraffinite Ökonomische Berlin, Dietz forthcoming. T. for expertise of this reading of Marx, C.C. J.R. Plus the New Dialectic at March Capital, London and Boston, Will, 2002. XIX, which avoids difficulties by flattening out and simplifying the problems, but is frequently simplicity that is found only the writings of someone who has a lively view and a complete intellectual mastery of things. As Luxemburg put it in a letter to Clara Zetkin, her introduction to political economy is not an economic history, as you thought, but a brief analysis of political economy, that is, of capitalist mode of production. No less important, Luxemburg was not simply trying to provide an explanation of capitalism's historical development. She was most of all concerned with tracing out the process of its dissolution. Indeed, the issue of dissolution is simply to which specific historical era she explored. In analyzing the primitive communist societies of the Incas, Africans, and others, she shows how private property, class rule, male supremacy, state compulsion, and compulsory marriage arose out of the internal evolution of early communal bonds. In analyzing ancient Greece and Rome, she shows how slavery undermined the economic viability of these societies and ultimately led to their demise. In the case of the European Middle Ages, she reveals the damage done by the growth of commodity exchange and private property to the patriarchal solidity of feudal societies. And in analyzing the pre-capitalist societies persistent in her own time, she shows how the influence of European colonialism and imperialism accomplishes what millennia and the most savage Oriental conquerors could not: the dissolution of the whole social structure from the inside, tearing apart all traditional bonds and transforming the society in a short period of time into the shapeless private. More than anything else, it is this keen attentiveness to the process of dissolution that characterizes her analysis. All of the economic studies, as well as many other political writings, seek to pinpoint the internal contradictions of value production of need, of necessity, the destruction of the existing order. As she wrote in the introduction to Political Economy, the capitalist mode of production are right from the start, viewed in the quite immense perspective of historical progress, not something inalterable that exists forever. It is simply a transitional phase, a runway to also allow human cultural development, in the same way as previous social points. And indeed, the development of capitalism itself, on closer inspection, leads on to its own decline and beyond. If we were to know and investigate the connections that Paul Follett, Rosa Luxemburg, New York, Modern Reader, 1972, pages 149. See also Rosa Luxemburg's Unverraffinite text. The politician economy popularization does not mean, however, that economic theory is replaced by economic history. It means rather to trace the logic of the historical development of a mode of production, showing their contradictions. T. to Clara Zetkin, late June 1909, in G. Settled Work, Bantry, pages 39. J.C. Introduction to Political Economy, pages 162, B. No. Section Ibid, pages 227, B. No. XX Introduction, Make the Capitalist Economy Possible. It is now time to familiarize ourselves with those that make it impossible. Luxemburg's emphasis on decay also explains why she was so determined to develop a Marxist theory of imperialism. In the view Workers and capitalists cannot supply what is required in terms of demand to buy back or realize the bulk of surplus value generated by capitalist production, and consequently imperialism becomes essential if the economy is to continue to expand. But the depletion of non-capitalist strata through imperialist integration ultimately exhausts the potential for expansion. For that reason, she views imperialism as a capitalist crisis. In emphasizing capitalism's tendency towards dissolution, as against devil open a theory of capitalism's development, Luxemburg is following the approach of Marx himself, equating dissolution to any social phenomena. Indeed, that is the essence of Marx's Capital. This theory but rather the elements of its destruction. That this was Marx's approach to historical phenomena is also evident from such works as the Limerick and the Etymological Movement. That Luxemburg took much the same approach to study Volume 2 of Capital notwithstanding, she had a far better understanding of Marx's approach than most of its critics and followers. Luxemburg's emphasis on dissolution is also evident in her attitude toward political economy. The end of the first chapter of the Introduction to Political Economy introduces the social relations of Marxist capitalism. The passing of capitalism will spell the end of political economy itself. This indicates that Luxemburg, like Marx, did not see her role as revitalizing the political economy so much as undermining its very foundation through rigorous critique of the capitalist mode of production. This section is made up of professional economists from Wisconsin, but Luxemburg's vision was far more expansive than what commonly defines that field, which does not appear, even if pages 295, be known. Titulina Davidson, January 9, 1899, in case I was pages 249 to 52 for more on the critical importance of the concept of dissolution in Marxist critique of capitalism. See Peter Lewis, Marx, Concept of the Alternative to Capitalism, Latin and Boston, Wood, and Clark. Section 3, page 34. Below, it is clear then why Marx based his own economic doctrine outside official political economy. Anarchy and its patron all that Marx thought he liked. Continuation whose final results stand in very sharp contrast to the points of departure. The Marxian doctrine is a child of political economy, but a child that crosses As important as are Luxemburg's contributions to an understanding of the modern world, the limitations are numerous and striking. One will search in vain to find in her work a discussion of one of the most important Marxian concepts, the fetishism of commodities. Like virtually all the Marxists of her generation, this dimension of Chapter 1 of Capital was largely passed over in silence. It is only with the work of Georg Lukács in the 1920s who wrote T. He chapter dealing with the fetish character of a commodity contains within itself the whole of historical materialism that it began to obtain the attention it deserved. One will also not find a serious discussion or defense of the Marxian notion of the decline in the rate of profit, which some contemporary economists argue is of crucial importance for understanding the present crisis of global capitalism. Instead, she dismissed the concept on the grounds that there is still some time to pass before capitalism collapses because of the falling rate of profit, roughly until the sun burns out. T. Most important of all, Luxemburg, like virtually all Marxists of her generation, tended to view the absolute class opposites as anarchy versus organization, by identifying clandestineness with capitalism and an organized economy with socialism. As she writes in Introduction to Political Economy, in capitalism there is the disappearance of any kind of authority in economic life, any organization and planning in labor, any kind of connection between the individual members. She adds, there is an overpowerful lord that governs working humanity, capital. But its form of government is not despotism but anarchy, although this was the standard view in the Second International, The 1891 Erfurt program, which served as the programmatic and theoretic basis of German social democracy, Tag referred to the plan of private production. In his critique of the program, Engels countered, capitalist production by joint stock companies is no longer private production but production on behalf of many associated people. And when we compare stock companies to trusts, which dominate and monopolize whole branches of industry, this puts an end not only to private production but also to premises, section see Georg Lukács, Reification and the Consciousness of the Proletariat. In History and Consciousness, Studies in Marxist Dialectics, London, Merlin Press, 1968. T. Rosa Luxemburg, The Accumulation of Capital, and Anti-Critique, New York, Modern Reader, 1972, pages 77. J. Introduction to Political Economy, pages 134. Friedrich Engels, A Critique of the Draft Program of 1891. In Marx Engels Collected Work, Volume 27, New York, International Publishers, 1900, pages 224. XXII Introduction, Next Society and Less Capitalistic. Yet despite this, Luxemburg persisted in claiming that every allowed only the role of capital, thereby giving short shrift to the disposal of capital at the point of production. That touches directly on the conception OFWHOT constitutes a truly socialist society. For if market anarchy is the essence of capitalism, it seems to follow that the abolition of the market and the rule of society by a state only constitutes socialism. Surely, Luxemburg was correct that the historical factor that produced the dissolution of pre-capitalist societies and the rise of capitalism was the increasing role of market relations of commodity exchange. She writes the following question: does private property emerge as a result of generalized commodity exchange, or is it the other way around? She writes, we both come up against a strange contradiction. Exchange is only possible with private property and a developed division of labor, but this division of labor can only come about as a result of exchange on the basis of private property. As private property's worth part only arises through exchange, she admits that we are clearly going round in a circle and running up against a contradiction. She tries to resolve the matter by saying the contradiction may well be inextricable for individuals in everyday life, but in the life of society as a whole, you find contradictions of this kind everywhere you look. As the great philosopher Hegel said, contradiction is the very moving principle of the world. The problem, however, is that this way of putting things does not really posit contradiction in a Hegelian sense, in which dialectical duality is resolved through a higher development. She instead poses the contradiction along the lines of a Kantian antinomy, that is, of an unresolved and insuperable contradiction. Marx grappled with a similar contradiction, but he resolved it quite differently. He wrote in his economic and philosophical manuscripts of 1844, private property thus results by analysis from the concept of alienated labor, that is, of alienated man, of estranged labor, of estranged life, of estranged man. True, it is as a result of movement of private property that we have obtained the concept of alienated labor, of alienated life, in political economy. But analysis of this concept shows that though private property appears to be the reason, the cause of alienated labor, it is rather its consequence, just as the gods are originally not the cause but the effect of man's intellectual confusion. Later this relationship becomes reciprocal. Introduction to Political Economy, pages 134, below. T. For more on this, see Peter Lukas, Rosa Luxemburg's Concept of a Post-Capitalist Society. In Critique, Volume 40, Number 3, 2012, pages 323 to 35. J. Introduction to Political Economy, pages 251, below. Section Economic and Philosophical Manuscripts of 1844, in Marx Engels Collected Works, Volume 3, New York, International Publishers, 1975, pp. 279-80. Introduction XXII. Luxemburg did not have access, of course, to Marx's 1-844 manuscripts. or many of his other writings that contain a far deeper critique of capitalism than the counterpoising of market anarchy and organized plan, that liberatory perspective did not permeate her generation of Marxists just as it has been outside the purview of many lesser Marxists who came after her. No one can doubt that Luxemburg had a fiercely independent intellect and personality to the extent that she was not afraid to take issue with even her closest intellectual mentors. As the entirety of her contribution is made available in the complete works, we will be in a better position to judge the validity and strength as well as the possible weaknesses of her overall contribution to the struggle for human liberation. Reading Luxemburg critically is undoubtedly what she herself would expect, as we try to grasp what the revolutionary critique of capital that she devoted herself to means for today. Peter Ludus, the German edition of the complete works, published by Dietz Verlag in Berlin, is currently being supplemented by a numeric edition containing material that did not appear earlier in the G7th work. All of these writings will be included in the English language complete works. The industrial development of Poland purpose. Although the subject of the following treatise is highly specialized, we are never just to use that, for a number of reasons, it can be of more than passing interest to Western European readers. Today, it has specialized ideas, and issues stand in the forefront of intellectual life. There is already widespread recognition that they are the motor forces of all social being and economy. The principles of development and destiny of a country are for us like a closed book, sealed with heaven seal. If we do not know that countries' economic life and all the results of social policy. It was not so long ago that Poland's name resounded throughout the civilized world. Its fortune stirred the minds of all and brought excitement to everyone. Making no one not since it became an ordinary capitalist country. If one wants to know what has become of the old rebel, and what the destinies of its history of Poland in recent decades. One can view this as the so-called Polish question from various standpoint, but for those who see in the material development of political development, the solution to the Polish question can be found only on the basis of Poland's economic life and the trade. We have attempted in the following treatise to gather together the available material necessary for solving this problem, organizing it as much as possible to provide a clear and overall view. In the process, liberty of doing some directly but pointing at a political nature. Thus, the subject that at first glance seems so dry and specialized may prove to be interesting for political people as well. This may also be true for other reasons. The Mali Empire of the North is playing an increasingly important role in European politics. All keeping a close watch on Russia, and people view with concern the alarming advances made by Russian policy in Asia. Soon it will be clear to anyone that the most important capitalist countries will, earlier or later, have to be prepared for serious economic competition with Russia in Asia. The policy of the Tsarist Empire can therefore no longer be a matter of competing against Western Europeans. Poland constitutes, however, one of the most important industrial regions of the Russian Empire, one in whose history the economic policies of Russia have perhaps been most clearly and distinctly expressed. A reference to Book of Revelation, John, the author of the Fourth Gospel, reports that the revelation was secured on 7 wax seals. 2-volume Economic Writings 1, the study lay scattered in numerous statistical publications, which often contradicted one another.
Yeah, man, it just goes slow. I can't buy it, I can't spend it cash.
Unofficial ones. No exhaustive work about the history of Polish industry in general, and especially about its present condition, is to be found.
I'm straight up on both of these accounts, just working on the MD, just the support mechs generally, but getting earning enough Acorns to rank them up to the top. Just seeing how long it's going to take.
The history and present condition of Polish industry. 1. The period of manufacture, 1820-50. Toward the beginning
I-
of the 19th century,
my plan
political events placed
It's
Poland
just to
in
work
challenging
with these three
circumstances.
until they,
The partitioning
before I
of
think
Poland
about
resulted from
getting
special civil
something,
and market conditions of
other
natural
robots or
economy
something
that
like
had
that.
prevailed under the
I
Republic
wanna
of gentry conditions
top
found
these
in
guys
Poland
out,
for most of the 18th century.
these three.
Poland was brought under a regime of enlightened absolutism
interesting.
under the centralized
And since I
bureaucratic
record most every
administrative
time I
systems of
play, I
Russia,
record it,
Austria,
so
and Russia.
I can look back
the main part of Poland
and
Russia, which
measure
its
things,
interest
see how
was
long it
here,
took.
indeed
And
was very similar. At
I've
first
been
as the
working.
Duchy of
I did a
Warsaw,
lot more
later,
game development.
after the Congress of
I was
Vienna as
a
the
computer
Kingdom of
animation and
Poland,
game
to
development,
maintain its
movie
own
special effects
constitution based on social estates.
for many years. And
But there was a world of
never
difference
really
between this
played games or
Congress
had time
Poland
to
and the
play
Poland
games.
of former times. The
So
entire
when I look at a game,
administrative,
I'm also
financial,
kind
military,
of studying.
and judicial apparatus was adapted to that of the modern
How's it working?
centralized
How's it
state.
set up?
But this apparatus proved to be in glaring contradiction to the economic relations onto which it
That's
had
sort
been
of keeps me
superimposed.
interested.
As before, Poland's economic life centered on landed property. The development of urban craft production, which had begun in the 13th century,
Hey, man, they don't-
time of the 17th
They don't have
century. At the end of the 18th century, attempts
the thing
first
in here
partition of
anymore where
Poland
you
between
get the
Prussia,
42.
Austria-Hungary, and Russia in 1773. The second partition occurred in
Crate Rush or something
1793.
like that.
The third and final partitioning of Poland occurred in
Well, I
1795,
wish I
in
could
which
get that.
Poland was
Did I get
absorbed
the
into
sequel?
the surrounding empires. The Duchy of Warsaw was established in 1807 by Napoleon. It consisted of Prussian-occupied parts of Poland that were surrendered under the terms of treaties of Tilsit. It did not function as a truly independent
Okay, I could buy the
country,
Arc
serving
Torrent
as a
12.
satellite
Okay,
state of
okay, man,
France.
this is where I really
It was
appreciate a
occupied
friend
and
coming by and
divided
going,
between
"Hey,
Prussia
buddy,
and Russia following
I figured
Napoleon's
something out. Let me
defeat in
share it with
Russia
you,
in
man. That's really
January
awesome."
1814.
I was like, that's a real friendly
After the
thing to
defeat of
do.
Napoleon, the European
So let's
powers
see,
gathered
the
at
Arc Torrent
Congress of
12,
Vienna
where
from
the hell is it? I don't even
September
know
1814 to June 9, 1815,
how to do this thing
implement the
anymore, 'cause they
territorial
changed it,
organization of Europe. Among other things, the Congress of
Weapons.
Vienna
Okay, I'm not
established
even
a
on
nominal
weapons.
independent Kingdom of Poland, subordinated
See,
to the
I haven't
Tsarist
even been in
regime
here.
through a
Let's see,
personal union with Russia under Tsar Alexander I. This Kingdom of Poland is also frequently referred to as Congress Poland. Since the Congress of Vienna founded
Fusion Cannon
the
12,
industrial development of Poland III by the owners of large land in the
Missile
States,
Rack 12 is
the
locked.
methods
Disruption
to create a manufacturing
10
system
locked.
likewise fell apart, having gone nowhere. After all, landed property was entirely unsuited to serve
I don't
as
see
the
where,
basis for a
I
modern
don't see
state
where I can buy it.
organization,
Uh-oh.
because of its dependence on the world market, which dated from
Here's
the
my Arc
15th
Torrent
century.
booger.
The Poland of old had been
So,
driven to
let's see, if
establish
I
a
go in here
highly
the old
extensive
way.
latifundia economy, with the most extreme exactions being imposed on served labor. These latifundia were managed more and more irrationally, and therefore constantly became less and less productive. The wars of Poland's final epoch, and then Napoleon's economic policies in the Duchy of Poland, especially the continental
See, I don't see Arc
system,
Torrent 12.
and the accompanying drop in grain exports, plus the falling price of grain, followed by the abolition of serfdom in 1807. All these blows of different kinds fell upon landed property, one after the other, over the course of about 10 years and brought it to the verge of ruin. But because landed property constituted the main source of revenue in the country, once again the full burden of the relatively large costs of the new administrative system fell on the landed proprietors. The 10% income tax on landed property, which Poland had already introduced in olden times, but which was now actually being collected for the first time, was suddenly supposed to be increased to 24%. In addition, the burden of quartering troops and supplying the military in natura fell on the nobility. The result was that landed property soon fell into the clutches of the users. While Poland possessed no urban capitalist class, because of the decay of urban production and trade, such a class surfaced right after the partition of Poland.
I don't see why I don't see the Arc Torrent yet. I see Arc Torrent 6, but I don't see Arc Torrent 12 where I can't even get it. Gear Hub. Weapons. Oh dear. So, man, you know my friend Sadia in India she plays Macarena with my daughter and stuff. She got hit by a truck. She's in a coma. The truck driver's in prison. They locked him up. I was like, man, I hope this is a scam. I hope it, because it was her brother that reached out to me, and sometimes, people try to scam, but yeah, I don't think it's a scam. I think she's in a coma. I'm really sad about that. I don't even know what, it's like, in the education system, right? The public education system, it's like when kids have brain damage or schizophrenia or autism or something like that, they cover, you're in tier 2, tier 1, all this stuff. And that's how they define how they get services and stuff like that. So somebody starts talking about tiers. I'm like, is that autism spectrum? I guess the higher the tier, the more devastating the weapon is. Okay, so I forget what oh, there's an ArcTorrent 10. It's locked. So I'm assuming. What were you saying? It's tier 6? I don't see it. Oh, there it is. ArcTorrent 12, but for me it's locked. There, that's it, right? It's locked. I mean, how do I unlock it? I need to go do these implants and stuff too. Scrap stuff. Oh well. I gotta go take care of some family domesticalizationalisms behind it. So I'm gonna have to drop off the stream, but yeah, I'm gonna figure it out. I guess I'm kind of bummed out. All right, get new stuff, and you got to get new stuff, and the amount of stars from the stuff you get goes towards the next tier. Okay, so this is my deal. I'm just trying to get. I'm doing nothing but getting the blueprints for this, trying to get it to where I can rank it up again. This is my lower powered. This is my daughter's account. I'm gonna switch over here and get in here for a few minutes. So. I was watching the Valorant tournament the other day. It was like 90,000 people watching the stream. It's like, man. Ooh, everything's popping up here. Kidding me? Have a plan on that? Sure, have not. The ninja sauce. All right, as I said, I'm gonna have to end the stream because I got some domestic stuff I need to take care of. Clear the cobwebs out of my brain. Oh Lord. All right, so thanks for tuning in, and I appreciate it. I use all the help I can get, but man, I want to learn how to play Valorant too. Or I want to, I sort of want to learn how to play a game that's got a, major, hundreds of thousands of people following it. But I guess I'm gonna have to get in there and just bite the bullet or whatever, try to learn it. All right. See you next time.